When you're working in AutoCAD 2017, quite often what you want is a point marked on the drawing that allows you to place something like a setting out point. So for example, with the building we have here in the 04 drawingobjects.dwg file, there will normally be a setting out point that the surveyor uses to obviously use things like survey equipment like theodolites, total stations, measuring levels and things like that. And he'll measure those from a known point, known as a datum. Now, what you can do is you can set that up using a point, an AutoCAD point, and a point style, or potentially you can place what is called a donut, an AutoCAD donut. Now, that's not something like a Krispy Kreme or something like that. It's actually a donut shape that you place on a drawing. So apologies for any of you that got excited thinking donuts as per Homer Simpson, for example. So let's have a look at placing a point with a point style first. Now, the default point style in AutoCAD is a little dot, and you cannot see it for love nor money. So how do you change your point style and then place a point on an AutoCAD drawing? Well, let me show you that first, and what we'll do is we'll just make sure before we do anything else we go to the layers, and we've got the A Survey Setting Out layer set up. That's a layer in your layer list. So as you can see, there you go, A Surv Setting Out. Stands for Architectural Survey Setting Out, just so that you know. So we've got our layer set to the appropriate layer. Then what we do is we go to the Home tab on the ribbon, we go to the Utilities panel here, and you can see there's point style right there. So we select point style. And you can see, look, there's a black box there highlighted and there's a tiny little dot in the center. What's even funnier still is you can have a point style that doesn't exist. It's blank, which to me kind of defeats the object a little bit. I normally use something like this one here, that one there, because it stands out and it's obvious. And also, more importantly, be aware of these settings here for your point size. It can be 5% relative to screen. So that means that it will always be 5% of your screen size, no matter whether you zoom in or zoom out. And it will resize accordingly when you zoom in and zoom out. If you set that size in absolute units and set that to say 5 units or 5 millimeters, when you zoom out, that 5 millimeters is going to get smaller and smaller. So you might not be able to see your AutoCAD points on your drawing. So I normally, as a rule of thumb, set the size relative to the screen, so they're always there. So I've set that style there and I'm going to click on OK. So now what I'm going to do is place my point, my setting out point, and I'm going to utilize this corner down here. So I'm just going to pan and come up, and I'm going to use the end of that line there, the end of that grid line. And it could be there, it might be somewhere different, it might be a particular coordinate, for example. But I'm going to go up to the draw panel, click on the little flyout menu like we did previously, and I'm going to pin it open like so. And I want to draw a point, a physical point. Now, if we look on here, can you see that there's things like revision clouds? And there's also objects there like a region, a wipeout, and so on. But there's nothing talking about points anywhere. How do I draw an AutoCAD point? Well, I'm just going to unpin that and do that. All you've got to do is type point, literally the word point, like that. And can you see there's the command there on the suggestion menu? So just press enter, like so, and it asks for a point. So all I've got to do now is use my object snap. So I'm going to go to the end point there and click, and there's my point there. Now I can place another one, say on the end here. So I can repeat that command, repeat point, by right-clicking on the shortcut menu there. And there we go, there's my points there. Now the reason I've put them on their own layer is obviously you might want to freeze that layer, like we looked at in the previous video where the eye floor layer was frozen. So if I now chose a different layer, and let's say I just put it onto layer 0 for now, and just scroll up there, there's layer 0, select layer 0 as the current layer, and then what I'll do is I'll select the flyout again, and there's my survey setting out. Watch the points to the left. If I freeze that layer, they disappear. If I thaw that layer out, they come back, and I'll go back onto the survey setting out layer. Just allows you to switch them off and on if you need to. Now, I'm going to delete those points now by zooming in, and they're like on any other AutoCAD object, like so, and I can erase them using erase on the modify panel like that. Now, the other thing that I can place on that survey layer is a donut. Now, a donut is really two circles, two concentric circles, with a little bit of solid fill in between. Now, the reason it's called a donut is it literally looks like a donut. You specify the inside diameter, outside diameter, job done. So I'm just going to type the word donut. Now, remember it's the American spelling, D-O-N-U-T. Now, us Brits don't spell it like that. It's D-O-U-G-H-N-U-T, dough-nut. So it's kind of a play on words there, so just be aware of that. If you're an Englishman using AutoCAD, you need to spell donut the American way. It just works that way. So I'm going to select the donut command like that, and it asks for the inside diameter of the donut. Now, at the moment, that's saying 0.5. That's 0.5 millimeters. Kind of small on a metric millimeters drawing. So I'm going to do an inside diameter of 250, like so, 250 millimeters, quarter of a meter. And then the outside diameter, I'm going to say is 500. So that's half a meter. I'm deliberately making this big so that when it shows up on the screen, you can see the donut. So I'll press enter there. There's my donut. You can see it now on the crosshair. I line that up with the endpoint snap and I click, hit escape to deselect or cancel the command. And there's my donut. Looks a little bit like a little white polo mint, if you remember polo mints. But I think they're a British thing. So you Americans might not get that, again, with the spelling of donut and so on. Kind of playing on words a little bit there. So you can see that there's our donut, and that makes a perfect setting out point. You could perhaps place some text underneath it, perhaps put a little crosshair through it to make it look cool, make it into an AutoCAD block, something like that. Now, we do cover blocks later. But that's how you work with your points, which you could also use as setting out points, or your donuts, which, as you can see, make a perfect setting out point on a drawing as well.